Have you ever wondered why some people seem unshaken by chaos, while others crumble at the first sign of stress? It's not luck, it's not magic, it's mindset, it's training, it's the ancient discipline of Stoicism. You see, in a world that constantly throws storms your way, the only way to survive is to become the storm's master. And the Stoics, they were warriors of the mind. They didn't need armor, they wore wisdom as their shield, discipline as their sword, and virtue as their compass. Today, I want you to imagine this. What if every single day was a battlefield not of blood and war, but of thoughts, distractions, desires, and fears? What if I told you, you've been drafted into that war from the moment you wake up? But most people, they're unarmed. They go into the day naked, reactive, weak. But not you, not anymore. Because from this day forward, you train your mind like a warrior. Wake up with intention not to scroll, not to react, but to center yourself. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, wrote in his journal each morning, not to be famous but to prepare his soul for war. He wrote things like, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." That's not dark. That's clarity, that's focus, that's Stoicism. Every morning, remind yourself, you don't control the world, you only control your response to it. Let that become your battle cry. Discipline is a daily practice, not a one-time decision. The Stoics didn't hope for an easy life. They trained for the hard one. They practiced voluntary discomfort, fasting, walking in the cold, denying luxury. Why? So when life got tough, they were tougher. Modern Stoicism means put down your phone, sit with silence, feel your urges, and let them pass. That's how warriors sharpen their swords, by resisting what weakens them. Ego is the enemy. You're not entitled to ease. You're not special because you started. Stoics say, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. That means your actions are your truth. Talk less, do more, complain less, endure more. You don't need sympathy, you need strength. You don't need attention, you need discipline. Every obstacle you face, it's not blocking the path, it is the path. This is one of the most powerful Stoic teachings. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. So the breakup, the failure, the rejection, that's not your downfall, that's your fuel. Warriors don't fear the wall, they build ladders. Start practicing negative visualization. What does that mean? Imagine losing everything you love. Your health, your family, your success. Not to make you sad, but to make you grateful. Because true warriors don't complain about what's missing. They appreciate what's still there. And when you start the day with that mindset, you're already ahead. Be indifferent to praise or blame. That's true freedom. If compliments control your mood, criticism will destroy it. Epictetus said, if someone speaks ill of you, live so none will believe it. You don't need validation. You need virtue. Your job is to become so focused on your mission that noise becomes background music. Journaling is your daily weapon, not to vent, but to reflect. Ask yourself, where did I fall short? Where did I stay strong? What did I learn? Because a warrior who doesn't reflect repeats mistakes, but the one who writes rewrites his destiny. Be present. The Stoics knew that most suffering comes from the past we regret and the future we fear. But the warrior lives in the now, right here, right now. This moment is the only one guaranteed, so own it. Don't escape, don't drift, don't waste it. Control your inner dialogue. A warrior doesn't feed his mind poison. Stop saying, I can't. Stop repeating, I'm not good enough. Every thought you allow is either your enemy or your ally. Choose wisely, because when you train your mind like a warrior, the world stops controlling you. You face hardship with a smile. You walk through pain with peace. You get knocked down and rise wiser, not emotional, not impulsive, stoic. calm, strong, unshakable, so repeat after me. I am not here to escape struggle. I am here to endure it. I am not controlled by outcomes. I control my effort. I am not weak. I am forged by fire today. I don't react, I rise. The first battle of the day is the moment your eyes open. Most people lose it instantly reaching for their phones, drowning their minds in noise before their feet even touch the ground. But not the Stoic. The Stoic starts the day not with chaos, but with calm. Before the world invades your peace, you must establish your own inner kingdom. Silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. It's where thoughts settle, clarity emerges, and focus sharpens. The Stoic warrior doesn't need to be entertained. Upon waking, he needs to be grounded. He doesn't chase stimulation, he anchors himself in stillness. That stillness becomes his foundation for the battles ahead. Aurelius wrote his meditations before sunrise. Why? Because reflection in silence is the most powerful way to gain control over your mind. He wasn't writing for the world, he was writing for his soul. That quiet act gave him dominion over his emotions, his actions, and his empire. You're no different. Your mind is your kingdom, rule it. When you start your day with scrolling, you become a servant to other people's opinions, crises, and distractions. You enter the battlefield unarmed. But when you start with intention, journaling, meditation, a simple breath, you sharpen your blade. You enter the day ready. Silence in the morning builds mental strength. You become less reactive, more deliberate. You don't panic, you assess. You don't scroll, you reflect. Every time you resist that morning urge to distract yourself, you train your willpower like a muscle. The Stoic knows that how you start is how you continue. Begin scattered, and your day remains fragmented. Begin focused, and your day becomes a mission. Warriors don't run into battle blind, they pause. They prepare, they visualize their attack. That's what your morning silence gives you, an edge. In those first quiet moments, remind yourself of your core truths. You are not owed comfort. You are not promised ease. But you are capable. You are calm. You are ready. This mindset will serve you far longer than checking your notifications ever will. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes, don't reach for the phone. Reach inward. Embrace the silence. Center your soul, because that's where warriors are made, not in noise, but in quiet, unseen moments of preparation. That's where discipline is born. Life is full of unpredictable turns. Things will go wrong. People will disappoint you. Plans will crumble. The Stoic doesn't deny this, he expects it. But what separates the weak from the strong is not what happens to them, but how they choose to respond. You may not control the wind, but you do control the sail. Your reaction is your power. Every day, events unfold that lie outside your command traffic. Weather, illness, the opinions of others. But none of these have the power to define your inner state unless you hand it over. The Stoic chooses to remain unmoved by external turbulence because he knows chaos outside doesn't have to become chaos inside. Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. You can be insulted and remain calm. You can be challenged and stay composed. You can be hit by life's storm and walk through it like a rock in the sea, solid, unmoved, grounded in wisdom. This is real strength. This is Stoic mastery. We waste energy trying to bend the world to our will, trying to make others behave the way we wish, hoping that life will just go easy on us. But life doesn't owe us comfort. The Stoic doesn't plead for softer terrain. He strengthens his boots. He says, "Let the world be how it is. I will master my internal world." Every reaction you choose trains your mind. Lose your temper. You teach yourself to be impulsive. remain calm under pressure. You forge resilience. You are either reinforcing weakness or building power, one choice at a time. So pause, breathe, ask, is this worth losing my peace over? Imagine the freedom of not being controlled by circumstances. Someone yells at you, you remain composed. A door closes on your ambition, you pivot with grace. This is not suppression, it's redirection. You're not bottling emotion, you're mastering it. You become the one who owns his mind while others are owned by theirs. This control over your reaction isn't cold detachment, it's strength with clarity. It's the refusal to give the outside world the keys to your inner kingdom. It's saying, you can act however you wish, but I will respond with purpose, not emotion. That is the Stoic way. So from now on, remind yourself every day, events will happen, life will unfold however it wishes, but your reaction, that's yours. Own it, sharpen it, master it, because in that space between stimulus and response lies your power. And warriors live in that space. Comfort is addictive. It lulls you into weakness, into softness, into complacency. The Stoics understood this danger long before modern luxury existed. That's why they practiced voluntary discomfort, choosing to face hardship even when they didn't have to. Not because they were masochists, but because they were warriors in training. Seneca, one of the great Stoic minds, would periodically sleep on the floor, wear rough clothing, and eat only the simplest food even though he was wealthy. Why? To remind himself that comfort is not a requirement for peace, that he could endure less and still be strong. This practice made him fearless. Voluntary discomfort isn't about suffering without reason. It's about rehearsing adversity so that when real hardship arrives, and you're already familiar with the pain, you've trained for the storm. While others panic and crumble, you stay calm because discomfort is no longer foreign to you. Try fasting, try cold showers, try walking instead of driving, skip pleasures once in a while, not to punish yourself, but to prove that your happiness does not rely on ease. This is mental armor. Every time you say no to comfort, you say yes to strength. You build a mind that doesn't break. Most people are owned by their cravings. A little hunger and they panic. A little boredom and they seek distraction. But you choose to lean into the discomfort. You learn to sit with it, to breathe through it, and in doing so, you free yourself from the chains of dependency. The modern world is filled with soft traps, fast food, endless entertainment, convenience at every turn. But the Stoic warrior doesn't let the world decide his limits. He imposes his own trials. He chooses the harder path, not because it's trendy, but because it sharpens the blade of the soul. Discomfort reveals you to yourself. When you strip away luxury, you find out what you're really made of, and that discovery is priceless. It's in those moments, cold, hungry, tired, alone, that your spirit is forged. You stop being fragile. You become unshakable, so seek discomfort before life forces it upon you, because those who voluntarily struggle become immune to surprise. While others collapse under pressure, you will rise, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. That is the Stoic advantage. That is the way of the warrior. When most people face an obstacle, they see it as a problem, a blockage, a dead end. They complain, withdraw, give up. But the Stoic sees it differently. To the Stoic, an obstacle isn't something to avoid, it's something to use. It's the very thing that makes you stronger, sharper, wiser. It's not in your way, it is the way. This concept, immortalized by Marcus Aurelius, flips your mindset. He wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." That means whatever challenge life throws at you is not a deed, or it's the path you're meant to walk. It's the test that turns your philosophy into action and your beliefs into character. Think about the strongest parts of you. Did they come from ease, or were they built in the fire of setbacks, failures, and adversity? The obstacle is not the enemy, it's the tool. It forces growth. It demands resilience. And when you face it with courage instead of fear, you transform. Most people run from difficulty. They seek the smooth road. But smooth roads don't build warriors. Tough terrain does. It's the uphill climb that gives you strength. The obstacle is your training ground, a personal gym for your willpower, patience, and discipline. When something gets in your way, a rejection, a loss, a delay, ask yourself, how can I grow from this? What skill, virtue, or strength is this moment asking me to develop? Suddenly, the pain has a purpose. The resistance becomes your resistance training. Life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you to stretch your mind, to carve your character, to show you what you're capable of. The Stoic doesn't beg for a clear path. He becomes the kind of person who thrives on the unclear one because he knows if it's easy, it doesn't change you. Even failure is no longer something to fear. It becomes feedback, a lesson, a mirror. The Stoic uses it to recalibrate, not to retreat. He looks at the wall and says, "Good, now I learn to climb." He sees closed doors and says, "Perfect, now I test my patience." Obstacles become the forge that shapes the unshakable mind. So the next time life pushes back, don't curse it, don't run, step forward, embrace the weight, face the resistance with resolve, because this is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of your transformation. The obstacle isn't in the way, it is the way. Gratitude isn't just some feel. Good emotion, it's a weapon, a shield that protects your mind from entitlement, from bitterness, from despair. The Stoics knew this deeply. That's why they practiced something most people today avoid at all costs: imagining loss. This wasn't pessimism. It was power. It was preparation. Negative visualization is the practice of imagining the loss of what you love: your home, your health, your loved ones, your freedom. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Why would anyone want to think that way? But the Stoics weren't interested in comfort, they were interested in clarity. This practice makes you wake up. When you imagine life without what you currently take for granted, it does something radical. It awakens appreciation. You realize how fragile, how precious, how temporary it all is. And instead of complaining about what you don't have, you start celebrating what you do. Every breath becomes a blessing, every moment a miracle. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he could lose everything in an instant, and that this made life more meaningful, not less. When you accept that nothing is guaranteed, every sunrise becomes sacred. Every meal, every conversation, every ordinary moment becomes something you no longer overlook. In a world obsessed with more, the Stoic is grounded by enough. He isn't chasing shiny things to feel alive. He's fully alive with what he has. That's true freedom, when your joy doesn't depend on getting something, but on recognizing what's already yours. Gratitude through negative visualization does something even deeper. It makes you resilient. Because when the day comes that you do lose something, and that day will come, it won't destroy you. You've already faced the scenario in your mind. You've trained for that pain. You've prepared your soul. And in that preparation, you become stronger. You stop fearing loss because you've already made peace with impermanence. You don't cling. You don't panic. You cherish. And that quiet, steady appreciation gives you a calm the world can't touch. So every day, take a moment to practice this ancient Stoic habit. Close your eyes and imagine life without something you treasure. Then open them and give thanks that for now it's still here. That shift in perspective That's what separates the blind from the awakened, the takers from the warriors. That's the power of gratitude. Ego is the silent assassin of progress. It whispers lies into your ear that you're above criticism, that you already know enough, that you deserve special treatment. But the Stoic sees ego for what it truly is, a mask that hides weakness. Pride doesn't protect you, it exposes you. The moment you believe you've arrived is the moment you stop growing. Stoicism teaches humility not as a virtue for the meek, but as a weapon for the wise. A humble warrior never stops learning. He doesn't walk into the room trying to prove his worth. He walks in ready to be sharpened, shaped, and challenged. That mindset makes him unstoppable because nothing can offend a person who has nothing to prove. The Stoics didn't boast of their wisdom. They lived it. They didn't decorate themselves in achievements. They carried themselves in service. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, reminded himself in writing, "You are just a soul, carrying a corpse." That's not self-deprecation, that's clarity, that's humility in action. Ego says, "I know enough." Humility says, "There's always more to learn." Ego defends, humility absorbs. Ego competes, humility improves. And when you walk the Stoic path, you begin to see that humility is not weakness, it's discipline. It takes strength to admit you're wrong. It takes wisdom to listen instead of speak. A proud mind is fragile. It breaks under criticism, shatters under pressure, and isolates itself in self-righteousness. But a humble mind is flexible. It bends, adapts, learns, and grows. The Stoic warrior chooses humility not because it's comfortable, but because it's indestructible. You become dangerous when you stop seeking validation and start seeking truth. You become powerful when you admit your flaws and strive to correct them. You don't need to pretend to be perfect, you need to be real. And that authenticity is what the world respects. Stoicism teaches, let your actions speak louder than your image. The ego tries to keep you safe, but in doing so, it keeps you small. It blinds you to feedback. It shields you from growth. And worst of all, it convinces you that you're already strong enough. But a true warrior knows the moment you think you're done training is the moment you start decaying. So drop the mask, quiet the ego, let humility be your guide, because the strongest warriors aren't the loudest in the room, they're the most grounded, the ones who walk with confidence, but also curiosity, the ones who lead not from pride, but from purpose. That's Stoicism, that's strength. The Stoic path isn't about sounding wise, it's about living wisely. In today's world, everyone talks. Everyone tweets, posts, and declares what they believe. But the Stoic doesn't preach, he practices, because at the end of the day, what you do reveals who you are, not your words, not your intentions, your habits. Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. That philosophy echoes through Stoicism. If you want to be disciplined, you must practice discipline not once, but daily. If you want to be courageous, you must show up with courage, especially when fear is louder. Talking about Stoic principles is easy. Living them is hard. It's easy to say, "I don't get angry," until you're tested by disrespect. It's easy to say, "I'm calm," until chaos hits your doorstep. But in those moments, the truth shows. Are you performing? Or are you prepared? Stoicism demands embodiment. You become what you train. If you train laziness, you become lazy. If you train gratitude, you become grateful. If you train resilience even in small ways, like not reacting to petty insults, you build a foundation of unshakable character. Every day, every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. People will doubt your beliefs. Let them. Just make sure your behavior removes all question. Seneca said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." That means be so consistent, so grounded, so disciplined that your life itself becomes your loudest teaching. That's how Stoics lead, quietly, through action. When you embody your principles, you no longer need applause. You don't need recognition. You live with integrity even when no one is watching. And that's where true strength lies, not in public image, but in private standards. You show up for your values, not your vanity. Habits are your true resume. They're the blueprint of your destiny. If you want to change your life, stop explaining your goals. Start showing up for them. If you want to be respected, stop asking for it. Start earning it silently, day after day. The Stoic way isn't loud, it's relentless. So, forget the performance. Let your daily actions be your message. Let your consistency speak for your mindset. And let every day be a vote for the strong, focused, unshakable warrior you're becoming. Because in the end, it's not what you say that shapes you. It's what you do. One of the greatest freedoms a Stoic achieves is independence from opinion. Most people live in chains not of metal, but of approval. They crave praise and fear blame. They change who they are to fit in, to be liked, to be validated. But the Stoic sees this clearly. Both praise and blame are traps. If you chase one and run from the other, you're a prisoner to both. The truth is, you can be doing everything right and still be criticized. You can be standing in your integrity and still be misunderstood. And the opposite is also true. You can be praised for things that are meaningless or even wrong. That's why Stoics don't let the crowd determine their worth. They know the crowd is fickle and the crowd is often wrong. Epictetus said, "If you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. If you need a witness, be your own." This is the core of Stoic strength, becoming the witness of your own actions. You hold yourself to your own standard. You live in alignment with your values, not other people's opinions. The moment you start seeking external validation, you give your power away. You're no longer acting from principle, you're performing for applause. You're no longer guided by reason, you're reacting to reward. That path leads to exhaustion and identity loss. The Stoic stays on the inner path where peace lives. To be unmoved by praise doesn't mean you reject kindness or feedback. It means you don't depend on it. You appreciate it, but you don't require it. It doesn't define you, and when blame comes, you examine it. If it's valid, you adjust. If it's false, you let it go. Either way, your peace remains untouched. A warrior guided by opinion is easily manipulated. A warrior guided by principle is unstoppable. The Stoic is not arrogant. He is centered. He is not aloof. He is rooted. His calmness in the face of praise and blame alike confuses others, but it protects him. He doesn't rise too high on applause or fall too low on insult. This mindset brings a rare kind of strength. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to chase credit or defend against criticism. You just do the work. You live your truth. You uphold your code. And that kind of grounded presence is magnetic, not because you seek attention, but because you don't. So stay centered. Don't ride the emotional roller coaster of praise and blame. Build your inner fortress. Let your conscience be your compass. Because the world will always have opinions, but they don't have to own you. You belong to your character, and that is the only thing worth answering to. The Stoics weren't just thinkers, they were writers, not because they wanted to publish books or impress others, but because they knew that writing brings order to the mind. Life is chaotic, thoughts are scattered, emotions are turbulent. But when you journal, you force that chaos into clarity. You give shape to confusion, structure to struggle, and meaning to the mess. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, journaled almost every day. His meditations weren't meant for anyone else, they were reminders to himself, notes, reflections, corrections. They were tools for self-discipline. His private writings later became public wisdom, proof that deep thinking begins in solitude. Journaling is not a diary of what happened. It's a mirror to who you are becoming. It's a place to ask yourself the hard questions. Where did I fall short? Where did I overreact? What can I do better tomorrow? These questions sharpen the soul. They transform passive living into intentional evolution. Most people drift through their days without examining their behavior. They repeat the same mistakes, react the same way, and wonder why nothing changes. The Stoic journals because he refuses to live on autopilot. He studies his own thoughts like a general studies a battlefield, searching for weaknesses, building new strategies. A journal is a training ground for self-mastery. It's where the Stoic confronts his ego, confronts his fears, and confronts his responsibilities. It's not about perfection, it's about progression. You don't have to write pages. A few lines of honest reflection each day are enough to change the course of your life over time. The act of writing slows you down. It pulls you out of reaction and into reflection. It's hard to lie to yourself on paper. It's hard to ignore what you keep repeating. That honesty becomes your compass. And over time, your journal becomes a roadmap not of where you've been, but of where you're going. When you make journaling a ritual, it becomes more than writing, it becomes a spiritual exercise. A grounding ritual that keeps your mind clear, your actions intentional, and your soul aligned. It doesn't matter if it's messy, emotional, or unstructured. What matters is that it's real. So open your journal every day like a warrior opens his playbook. Write not to impress, but to express. Record not what the world is doing, but how you are responding to it. Because in those quiet moments with the page, you sharpen your mind, steady your spirit, and return to yourself. The average person spends their life trying to control everything: their schedule, their environment, the behavior of others. But the Stoic knows that real control begins and ends within. You can't make the world bend to your will. You can't force people to act right, speak kindly, or meet your expectations. But you can train your thoughts, and that, the Stoic believes, is where true freedom lies. Trying to control others leads only to frustration. People are unpredictable. They say things you don't like. They make choices you don't agree with. But when your peace depends on their cooperation, you've already lost. You've chained your well-being to something you can't command. The Stoic cuts that chain and reclaims his power by focusing only on what's his mind. You can't stop the storm, but you can learn to breathe in the rain. You can't silence every critic, but you can silence your need for their approval. Epictetus taught that some things are up to us and some things are not. The wise man spends zero energy on what is not. He saves his strength for mastering the only thing that ever really mattered: his response, his thoughts, his choices. Training your mind is like taming a wild horse. It bucks, it resists, it runs toward comfort or anger or insecurity. But with time, with repetition, with awareness, you gain control, not over the world, but over how you interpret it. That power changes everything, because when you can shape your thoughts, you can shape your reality. Every time you feel triggered, slighted, or ignored, that's not the world harming you. That's your interpretation harming you. And interpretations can be trained. You can reframe insult into opportunity. You can turn hardship into growth. You can choose to see through a lens of wisdom instead of ego. The Stoic knows he doesn't need to manipulate others to find peace. He needs only to govern himself. That's why he's so dangerous to the system. He can't be bought with praise, controlled with blame, or shaken by events. He is inwardly fortified. His thoughts are trained like a soldier's instincts, disciplined, clear, and focused. When you master your thinking, you become free from external control. You no longer need the world to be perfect. You don't crumble when people don't act the way you hoped. You remain steady because your state is built on something unshakable, your own mental discipline. That is the mark of a warrior mind. So let others chase control over people and outcomes. You take the harder, wiser path. Control over yourself. Because real power isn't in bending the world to your desires. It's in training your thoughts to thrive no matter what the world does. That's not just stoicism, that's freedom.